Hello. Like a lot of folks out there, I'm pretty excited about Kingdom Death Monster arriving, quote unquote soon. So somebody on the Board Game Geek forums had mentioned, wouldn't it be cool to make a dice tower out of an actual lantern? So I thought that that was definitely something that needed to happen. So I've spent a few days playing with this lantern that I picked up pretty cheap at Hobby Lobby, and seeing if I could make it into a dice tower and maybe add some bells and whistles. Obviously it doesn't have a courtyard yet for the dice to roll into, but you can see there in the front there's the exit hole. In just a moment I'll show you the back where you drop the dice in. One of the other features that I wanted to build into this is being a 4-player game with apparently a high probability of people dying. I wanted some way to represent that on the table, besides the obvious, of one person just not getting to play anymore. So I rigged this up with some LEDs so that for each player there is a light in the lantern. And those lights are actually run by a couple of AA batteries, so hopefully they'll last a long time. They're flickering LEDs, so they use very little juice. As you can see, in a pretty bright ambient light room, you can see them. I'm not sure how well it's coming on the video, but it's definitely a more yellow color, I think, than probably what you're getting on my camera. But I did individually switch them so that as a player dies horribly, you can turn off one light in the lantern. So as members of the party succumb to the perils of fighting the monsters in Kingdom Death, you can, one at a time, extinguish the light in the lantern for each player, and then when the final player dies, it goes dark. So I just thought that was a kind of a neat way to represent, people dying horribly during the game. The entrance where the dice go in is back here, and they basically just go through a tube down the middle. I know a lot of people get excited with dice towers about baffles and randomization and that sort of thing. Honestly, there wasn't a lot of room for baffles. I could have put basically some ribbing in there, but in my opinion, once you drop a dice and it goes through a 45-degree angle, drops about 10 inches, and then a 90-degree angle, and then rolls out across a table or into a courtyard, it's probably about as random as you're going to get. I don't have a courtyard yet, so pardon this horrible demonstration, but if you'll give me just a second, we can roll some dice in it. And you can see that they do in fact roll through it well. Make sure we've got you where you can see. Yeah, that'll actually work out pretty well. So the game uses primarily 10-sided. I can see you needing up to 4 at a time rolled. So I can drop 4 in there and miss. I can drop 4 in there, and they certainly bounce around and come out nice and random. Wow, I need to save these rolls for the game. 9, 9, 9, and a 1. But still, the 9s are great. Also, it seems like 6-sideds are used for certain things. I don't know how many you might need to ever roll at a time, but you can easily send a couple of those through there. They come out pretty random. They don't get stuck. You can roll the 2 6s and all the 10s, and everything goes through pretty smooth. So as far as dice rolling, it works. My plan is to make a little fenced-in area with maybe an inch-high wall around it. Maybe about the size of this, not as wide, but just bring it straight out this way. The lantern will be separate so that it can be used without it or used just as a lantern without the dice rolling. The switches are actually over here on the side. These are the individual switches for the top, the next down, and then the bottom light. And they toggle forward for on and backwards for off. And it seems to work pretty good. The base was probably the hardest part. Going into it, I thought the electronics would be the hard part, and the dice tower, because I've built dice towers out of other things before, would be the easy part. But once I got started, the lantern's made of sheet metal and glass, so it turns out that the dice tower was the hard part. You could probably make these lanterns with the basic electronics, you know, about $10 at Radio Shack, and have the lantern itself lit up with no dice tower. And the actual lantern, I think, with a 40% off coupon was $12. It wasn't extravagant, especially not when you think of the investment that's already gone into a game the size of Kingdom Death. So anyway, I hope you like it. I just thought I'd share. We can also try turning off the light, get some real ambiance going. But I think for the most part it would probably be hard to play the game in this light. So, shows up good with the light on. Thanks for looking, guys.